Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Looking at a book today which has come to us from Wiley Blackwell. It's also available as an eBook, and it's a book written by Roger Gibson. Now it's got the title, some places it has a practical guide to disruption and productivity loss on construction and engineering projects, and this book actually just has practical guide. So it depends on where you're looking as to whether the word A is at the front or not. That can make a bit of difference if you're looking the book's title up. However, what we're looking at here is a book for the construction bar. I found it very interesting, having done a number of cases in this area, being well aware of some of the really serious problems that can eventually lead to contentious litigation. Now, my wife Elizabeth and I had a good look at the book and a discussion of it, and then we came up with a title for our review as follows. Because time is at the heart of all construction projects, a must-have book for construction bar lawyers, and that's this book here by Gibson. It's not a big book at all. It's a hardback. There's the front, there's the spine, and then there's the back. You can see it's a light book, a little bit heavy, glossy pages, nice pages. Some information about Wiley at the back. Then you've got 200 pages in total. An interesting structure for the index, not a great deal of information there, more possibly than we would expect in some. Then there are a number of appendices. I'm going in reverse at the moment. Appendix 2 is standards, programs or schedules, and then Appendix 1 is actually quite useful because it's got the definitions and glossary. And again, you do need that at the construction bar, believe me, because there are a lot of interesting words which I sometimes have no idea what they're talking about. And so you've got to try and find out, or you may have some idea of what the words mean, but you've then got something that will set it down for you very clearly. This is an e-book as well. You see all the information there if you want to find the detail of it about. Then you've got the structure of the book itself, the contents pages. There are a total of 6 chapters in total. Introduction, contracts and case law, planning, programs and record keeping, delay, disruption and causation, loss of productivity, acceleration and mitigation. Then the appendices. Can I just say on record keeping, that's about evidence. Just remember that, because you're only as good when you're dealing with some of these cases as the actual evidence you've got and what people have been doing. Roger Gibson's given a very useful preface written in September of 2014, and I've reviewed this book in 2015 in August. He says, I've been involved in the construction industry in the UK and overseas for 50 years, both at project level and at head office organisations. He's spent a lot of his time primarily in time-related disputes and claims. A lot of that is what we get, of course, in court. He says the views expressed by me in this book represent many years of experience. Well, I'd like to thank him, because that actually gives us a great deal of help, mainly because we do need people with expertise so they understand what's going on. Now, let's have a look at the structure of the book. There's the introduction there. It's got paragraph numbering, you can see there. Then there's footnoting at the bottom. And then you can see various observations. It's very much a hands-on book, I thought. You've got case law, so you've got quite a bit of case law mentioned there, depending on what you might like to do. I have to say that I thought quite a bit of it was of a personal contribution, but I don't mean that in any other way than to say thank you very much for doing so, because that's actually what we need. You've got some very interesting comments again, some of the observations by some judges, some of whom will be well known to us. And then you've got again a whole range of areas where there are comments, claims, counterclaims about particular cases and so on. I did find it interesting, not just from the point of view of my own practice, but I'm sure it would be of interest to anybody involved at the construction bar. Then you've got things like costs and recoverability, which again I rather liked, because the costs issue is always a very important one, and one the client I feel should very much be kept informed of at all times. I sometimes wonder whether they are. By the time I get the cases, it's normally a very important issue, because we're right at the end of the particular contentious piece of litigation and we need a decision, and by then normally the costs issue is looming very large indeed. I'd like to thank Roger anyway for the book, and this is what we say about it. How much does time wasted or time lost on construction projects actually cost? Big question. This is a crucial question in an industry in which time delays cause disruption and consequent serious financial loss. How then is disruption quantified, and in a dispute, how is it resolved? And that's really what this is about, because at the end of the day, there will be clauses, the contracts themselves, but this book will give you some practical indications from his experience, the author's experience, of how you go about it. The answer then, or the vast majority of them, are to be found in this book, which within 200 or so pages offers a wealth of top-level consultancy and advice vital to anyone professionally involved in the construction industry. That includes, and especially, lawyers at the construction bar. And as I've said before, it is very much, it's a sort of consultancy advice book. And that's why I think that's what the charm is of the book, and the value to us as practitioners. The author, Gibson, Roger Gibson, is an acknowledged expert in this field, and he mentions that right at the beginning in the preface. He's been involved in the construction industry for 50 years, as he said, in the planning, project management and managerial roles, with specialist experience over the last 2 decades in time-related disputes and claims, and that's really the essence of the book. And so the benefit of his accumulated experience is placed at our disposal in what is a detailed, concise volume, but it's not too long. And that's, again, something I've found is quite easy to read. It's a good book to read. It's not difficult to read, and it's not that long. Quote, "Disruption claims," Gibson says, "impact on the whole of the construction industry. So this book is written for all those involved in submitting, evaluating, awarding, managing and resolving construction disputes." And I hope a few more will read it and not go to court. It's probably what we could add to that. True to this aim, then, the author provides realistic, robust and useful solutions to a range of typical construction problems. Fundamentally, construction disputes are about money, which of course is related to time, therefore obviously to time-related claims and claims for liquidated damages. Liquidated damages being damages which are fixed amounts of money, just to remind you of that factor, as opposed to unliquidated damages which are fixed by the courts. The effective management of time, says the author, is a part of everything we do in construction. It is at the heart of all construction projects. And if you think about it, it always is. Whatever it might be, time must be of the essence. It was the favourite expression. But you've then got to have fail-safe mechanisms in place when things don't quite go according to plan, which of course is quite often. In formulating claims for disruption and loss of productivity, the author stresses the necessity of systematic and accurate record keeping on projects. Programme and records, for example, is number 1 on the list of 21 core statements of principle in the Delay and Disruption Protocol published by the Society of Construction Law, the SCL. More on the matter of the protocol is provided in the book's first chapter and in Appendix 3. Can I just say on that if you are in court, that is the document you're going to be referring to quite regularly. And I say that as counsel involved in a number of these types of matter, where the actual need for proper record keeping has been abysmal. And it can lead to the loss of a case if you don't have good attention to detail. So that really is one of the conclusions I came away with from what he said there. The book's been published by Wiley. It's both a book and an e-book, and as I said, the title's readability, clarity and practicality. It's got a plain English approach, and they're all certainly in line with the emphasis on practicality as a whole, which characterises the output produced by this publishing house, as Wiley Blackwell. Paragraphs are numbered throughout, which I've indicated, which makes it very easy to use, and there are the numerous box sections containing examples from case law, some of the comments from the judges, extracts from, say, the counterclaims and so forth, plus 3 appendices and a handy index. Let me conclude by saying that the book, we think, provides valuable guidance on how to save time and therefore money by avoiding, or at least coping, with the factors that cause expensive delays or disruption on construction and engineering projects. Certainly its sage advice on dispute resolution should prove indispensable to everyone, from architects and construction lawyers to project managers and quantity surveyors. And the book publication date is cited at 2015. I think it's an important book from a lot of points of view. When I saw the title, I thought that's a book I'd be interested to know a bit more about. It's a bit of a long title, so quickly look at it again. You can see the title, but it explains what Roger Gibson's trying to do, and he's successful with it. There's the back of the book. It's a nice book. It's a nice, comfortable book to read. Opening it in the middle. Critical path method. Here we go. See, there's a lot of detail here. Use of computers and planning software. Precedence diagram method networks, PDMs. So we've got a little bit of detail coming in here. Planning, of course. This is all about record keeping. And I've stressed that rather a lot, but I can't overstress it, because you've really got to make sure with any of this information that you actually do have, for instance, progress records and other record keeping. It must be very well covered if you are going to have a problem and you need to get a resolution of that problem, because this book is what it says. It's a practical guide. I'd like to thank Roger very much indeed for it, and the publishers for taking the trouble to produce this for us. I think it's very useful. I would advise all members of council who are involved in construction bar cases to certainly know of this book's existence, and if you've got time, zip through it quite quickly. It's not difficult to read. It may give you some ideas with your cases as well. You never know. Thank you anyway to all concerned. Bye-bye.